Biden man does whatever a Biden can. How are you, Charles?
I'm good, Jason. The art department is, this is a different galaxy we're in now. This is amazing progress.
Thank you. You know, there always seems to be a direct correlation. If I like a movie or whatever, the poster is always a real winner. And I haven't seen this movie yet, of course. I think people in the audience know that I worked on The Amazing Spider-Man, which was terrible. But this actually looks good. I'm interested to see this film, and they've been making a lot of predictions that it's going to make $150 million in its debut, which would signal somewhat of a resurgence for Hollywood. I don't know if people realize how frequently I share Hollywood information with you, but financially it's doing terrible, and irrespective of the debauchery that goes on over there, it is a business that employs a lot of regular people, carpenters, electricians, etc., and it's in the toilet.
Swirling. Yeah, I remember actually, I had various projects in my banking career involving Hollywood, and one of them was in 92, going out, it might have been 91 actually, going out to have lunch with the CEO of 20th Century Fox on the lot in the fancy cabana dining room, and the CFO, because our firm in theory was going to convince the rich Japanese suckers to put a lot of money into Hollywood, and they were giving me this big song and dance about the future of the industry and their budgeting, and they told me then that $100 million per film was a blockbuster. That's their ambition. So to get as many 100 million
in the early 90s,
91, specifically in July of 1991. And I remember it was really just emblematic of the times that with the official overlords from Tokyo. The firm I was working for was owned by the large Japanese bank. Said, well, we've got to get to Hollywood early, and maybe 3 days before the meeting, and plan for the meeting.
Oh, I'm like, at the strip club.
No, much worse than that. I'm like, what? Why do we? Well, that's just the way we do things. Oh, okay. So we fly out, stay at the Beverly Hills Hotel, play tennis, have 1 or 2 meetings a day before the meeting to decide what we're going to say in the meeting.
They must have loved playing tennis with you.
So, some of them were pretty good tennis players, actually. And so we go, and it's just these endless, should we do it this way? Where should we sit? This and that, all this ridiculous stuff.
Did they speak English, or you had translators?
They spoke English, and they had firm opinions with no experience in M&A of how to do this. And I'm like, and so I endure this until 10 o'clock the night before, we're supposed to get there. The second most senior Japanese guy takes me aside and says, Charles, I gotta tell you something. What's that? You're gonna be handling this meeting tomorrow by yourself.
What?
And I said, why? And he said, well, the guy who flew from Tokyo, he can't make it. What? And I said, well, you realize that's pretty insulting, right? I mean, you've scheduled this meeting with these very senior people.
Don't show up.
And the guy who's supposed to be there, you expect me to say that he had something better to do.
Wow.
Other than talking about getting a preferred opportunity to buy 20th Century Fox. And so what did it turn out that this guy had done? He had paid, they had big budgets back then when Japan was imploding in 91, but they still hadn't got the message. And he had the ability, this guy, this puke frankly, to hire a Los Angeles entertainment law firm. And this entertainment law firm was in charge of getting the guy meetings with famous actresses.
Uh-oh.
And so he had gotten a meeting, now I'm blanking on the name, of who was Julia something and Hook?
Oh, Roberts.
Roberts, yeah. So he had gotten an appointment with Julia Roberts on the set at the time of the meeting, and he just said, I blew off the business meeting to go meet Julia Roberts.
Very strategic.
Yeah, I know. It's just like...
I met her at a deli one time. She's shorter than you might think.
Yeah. Most actors are, actually. But anyway, this is a great poster. It may be a decent movie, and I think we know enough. I sort of cared about politics when Jimmy Carter was inaugurated in January of 1977, and I don't think Jimmy Carter heaped more destruction on a country as quickly as Biden has done. And Jimmy Carter had no national experience. in politics when he became president. Biden, in contrast, is being
Supposed to be an expert.
yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason I think that some Americans looked at the contest in 2020 and said, this constant tweeting, this constant mayhem, this constant disruption. Enough of this already. I'd like to, just an even-tempered, experienced hand on the tiller of the ship of state. Let's put this geezer in. How badly can he screw things up? And I mean, we go from one disaster to the next. I mean, I was watching, I don't know why I do this to myself. It's like when I used to read the New York Times, and I figured, I'm going to have a heart attack if I read this paper every day. I just get more and more exercise. So I went from reading it from the beginning. I said, why don't I read the C section? Back then there were 4 sections. So the C section varied from, sometimes it was art, sometimes it was this. I'll read that first. Can't get too upset about that. Then I'll read the business section. Uh-huh. Then I'll try to read the B section. And then I'll go to the A section with the editorials in it. And maybe by the time I get
the A-hole section.
The A-hole section. I got to the point where I figured out the cat litter was it was cheaper than cat litter, the New York Times, but that's its only virtue. So I stopped reading that. Then I went to, on TV, I have this routine now where I enjoy trying to cook. And so I cook a meal every day at 7 p.m. And so I got to do something from 6 to 7 p.m., and that is watching television. And so for some strange reason on my computer, I don't know if it's the gods of television or whatever, I can get every channel, and it's Spectrum, and it's all this kind of stuff. But for some reason, Fox the sound works on every other station, but people are talking, and the sound doesn't work on Fox Business and on Fox.
Maybe it's better that way.
It could be, actually. And then other channels, I forget which one it is. I think it's ABC, which is Channel 7 in New York. The people are speaking in Spanish, and I can't fix that.
Hola, Carlos, ¿cómo está?
So any show I want to watch on 7, I think the other day I wanted to watch football, and the announcers were all.
Oh, you might have it on SAP.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to. I wouldn't know how to fix any of that. But anyway, so I'm watching this Ari Melber, who is a lawyer. I think he's intelligent.
Oh, we disagree.
Well, I think he's sentient. Let's put it that way. He can put sentences together.
Cognizant.
Yeah. But he puts this chart up yesterday, comparing the media coverage of Biden in 2021 with the media coverage of Trump in 2020. Now, that's not the fair comparison. The fair comparison would be the media coverage of Trump in his first year with the media coverage of Biden in his first year. Did we say something to anger the gods here? Or?
No, I'm trying to show you something. Keep going.
Right. And so the chart, unlike Trump, who never had a honeymoon period, the chart shows Biden up in January. He's way off the charts up, right? His approval is much better than his disapproval. And then you look at it's like a ski slope right around August. And, he goes on and on. See over here, Trump at the same time, he's actually...
Isn't August when he destroyed Afghanistan?
Afghanistan, exactly. He doesn't even come... Was that... That's
just a photo of... Oh.
How'd you do that?
That's a picture I took of the Hollywood sign that I was trying to show you, but it's on a computer over there and not wanting to open, and there's all kinds of problems. Okay. Maybe it's a waste of time.
So he goes on and on and on, this Ari Melber guy, talking about how, look at this in August, it's so unfair the degree to which Biden's popularity went down. You fucking destroyed our military capabilities, our credibility around the world in like 2 weeks. You said before, you just rushed out of a country, leaving behind $85 billion worth of...
Causing death, destruction.
We've got fathers selling their daughters in Kabul. And we're not talking about 13 and 14-year-olds, that's bad enough. We're talking about selling 8 and 9-year-old girls to 65-year-old men.
Into marriage.
We've got the Taliban running around now saying, on second thought, we don't have any money or anything, so suddenly we're all in for women's rights. Please send us. Send us the $10 billion. That's our money. And we're going to send the $10 billion, and just as soon as we do that, they'll get back in the business of cutting the ears off women who want to go to college.
I mean, the concept of sending money to Afghanistan is, part of the reason, Charles, that I selected this movie for today, not only because I'm thinking a lot about Spider-Man because they've been advertising it like crazy. But in this particular movie, Spider-Man sort of like breaks the universe. So Biden man is the perfect, look at the look on his face, and he's got the crackhead with him.
Yeah, and in recent, like in the last 24, 48 hours, apparently a friend of mine, a mutual friend, we won't give his name out, tells me he saw some study, the number of, Biden calls it Omnicron, or Cron or something like this, like totally wrong. The number of cases in the U.S. is a very low number. I mean, he said it was 10 across the whole country. I don't believe it's that low, but it's very, very low. And we have Fauci did indeed say in the last little while that maybe these vaccines don't work.
Wait a minute, Fauci said that?
Yes. And sometimes vaccines don't work. Well, I mean, we have, to your point in the very beginning, the subject came up. You said that at any moment in time, and I believe this is true, each of us has multiple viruses inside of us. It's not like 2 or 3. You might have 100.
Thousands.
Thousands, right.
Biome, there's all kinds of stuff.
Right, and so when you start, it'd be like if we went to, instead of showing people's faces the way you and I see them, we put everybody's face with a 10,000 times magnification. You're going to see little things moving around on the face. You're going to see stuff which will terrify you.
Charles, we did a video for the Houston Health Museum. Somehow it was the Boston Science Museum working with the Houston Health Museum, and both of those places had IMAX theaters, and we made this movie called Planet U or something like that, where it was shows a guy doing his work or whatever, and it just zooms into his arm, and there's just all of the little creatures and build really complicated 3D models of these microorganisms that live on your skin all the time, and there's millions of them.
Right. So if we were all to look at ourselves that way, we'd be jumping out of skyscrapers.
Yeah.
And similarly, the medical profession here, in quotes, Fauci especially, and some of these other people. The headline here is they have grossly mismanaged the allocation of trillions of dollars of assets to fight perceived threats to health, starting with HIV and AIDS. Others take it further back than that, but certainly with HIV and AIDS through the Global Fund. There are multiple exposés now of that. And now this recent COVID case where we were fed, Trump was fed and accepted bad models about the potential lethality of this. He shut the country down, and the world followed suit, most of the world, in March of 2020. It was, 10 days to stop the spread, or 2 weeks to stop?
2 weeks.
2 weeks to stop the
2 years ago.
Yeah, and now every budding Martinet emperor around this country and other countries, particularly at Christmas time now, holiday season, what they want to do is shut New York City down, shut New York State down, shut the UK down, and get us to a place where we can't make individual decisions anymore on the basis of actually good data.
No, I know. Talking about it, we're at risk.
Right.
Even to see that. Now, wait a minute. This is saying there's an award-winning Planet U. I didn't get any of those awards. I'm trying to show people what this thing was all about.
German cookie. Is that you?
That is not me.
Terra Mater Factual Studios?
I don't remember if this is it. I don't know, deep canyons. This sounds like it, but it's not showing any of the pictures from anything. Bed bugs, fleas. Yeah, this was it, but I don't know why it's not.
It says 2013.
Well, we're spending more time on this than we want to, and it's an old thing that's maybe not even there anymore. I don't know. It's not really.
Similar idea. Let's.
Yeah, enough of this.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, we're really.
We've got a lot to cover today, and then just the one other thing I wanted to show you was this kind of cool picture of the Hollywood sign that I created.
Nice.
Yeah,
You were flying above it?
I was standing behind it, but man, it's being difficult today. Okay, there we go. So this is the Hollywood sign.
Nice.
It's a fake sky, but it's Hollywood, so
what do you expect?
Hiked up to the mountain there, and
you should put Harvey Weinstein's picture in there.
Yeah, I'm going to do something with this picture, but for now, Charles, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. Not only, I guess it would have been nice, I could have made Obama Electro, because he's Jamie Foxx in the movie, but we got a lot to discuss today with regard, well, why don't you tell everybody what we're going to discuss?
Well, what we're going to do here is when we think about the role of a president of the United States, you have to go back, to understand the way the founders thought about it, you have to go back to George Washington. And George Washington was offered, the country was a disaster after independence. It was, the Articles of Confederation created a very weak executive, and they just couldn't get anything done. They didn't have the finances in shape. Britain was not helping them at all, to put it mildly. And they needed to rethink how to run the country. This is a simplistic way of thinking about it. And they needed a strong, reasonable leader. And so they were desperate, and they offered that position to George Washington. And he was offered the chance of being a hereditary monarch. And he turned it down.
That was smart.
Very smart. But think about, say ever since then, particularly, with Clinton and now,
there's people who've wanted to be hereditary monarchs.
Who effectively are creating positions through their presidential foundations that place them above the rule of law and give them enormous influence in this rush towards unregulated globalism around the world. Because you have suddenly, instead of being a person, a retiree, who on the pension or private income that you are able to get after leaving the White House, instead of having to earn income, pay taxes, and then after you're out of tax,
that's for suckers.
Then hire Valerie Jarrett or Chelsea or these other people, and then pay for private jetting and pay for presidential suites and pay for fancy parties and pay for high life. And
all your friends are paid forever.
You put that in the foundation. And and then you find people. There's the role of the president, modern presidency, particularly under Biden now, following in the precedents, frankly, set first by W. Bush with the Patriot Act, and I'll do whatever the hell I want, and we're going to have a surveillance state and all that. We started with that, and we're now in a place where these former presidential foundations, or foundations of former presidents, appear to be, unless I'm missing something, in a special place as regards the U.S. Department of Justice and the IRS, where they're not subject to investigation or prosecution. And because of that, they've just mushroomed into a gigantic influence peddling exercise.
Quickly.
Sorry?
Very quickly.
Very quickly. And that's a great picture.
And the thing is, Charles, I don't know that anybody else has identified this problem prior to you. I mean, certainly not as broadly and comprehensively. And I mean, you've sort of...
You're being kind, Jason, but actually in the academic world, people have. There are a number of professional historians and others have flagged this as a danger going back even before I was thinking about it.
But they haven't pointed out the machinations and all the how it's actually... You've shown how this is it's essentially a template. They've systematized this, and they can now approach someone and be like, hey, Barry, you want to be in on this, or you want to become nobody ever heard of you?
Right, exactly. And so in this case, this Obama Foundation, I've told the crowd before that when I was in the green room in Fox, and particularly in 2016, there was a guy who's on television, so I can give his name, Robert Wolf, who's was on the board of the Obama Foundation. And when you're sitting in the green room going on one of these talk shows, news shows, people talk to one another and hey, why are you here? What are you talking about? And typically, he goes on first, I watch him, he comes back into the green room to get his stuff, and hey, good job.
This is a talk show, I can't talk to you.
That was in the case of Neil Cavuto. Don't talk to me. But anyway, so he's a very, how to put it, he's a very political animal. He was, I think, head of UBS America.
Oh.
And a top fundraiser for Obama, and very influential when Obama was president. And Fox brought him on to have the fair and balanced Democratic view. And he has some interesting perspectives economically. He's made a lot of money. And he said, so what are you here to talk about? And I said, I'm here to talk about the largest set of unprosecuted frauds in history.
Oh, I have to go to the bathroom.
And he said, what's that? I said, it's the Clinton Foundation. He said, no, that can't be possible. I said, it's very possible. And I then said to him, and by the way, after a couple, 3 meetings later, I said, by the way, Bob, you've got a problem too. He said, well, what do you mean? We're doing everything by the book. I mean, this is a historic figure. We can't screw this up. I said, you're absolutely right. You shouldn't screw this up. This is an historic figure and an historic presidency, and the records of it should be in a place where people can study it fairly. And I happen to be somebody who believes that from an economic and foreign policy perspective, this person is a disaster. And it's a pity that he was such a screw up as a president, because, I mean, I look at it, you don't have to look at things through the prism of your white race or your black race, but in the American context, to go from being a country where slavery was legal
to having a black president,
reelected for a second term, that tells us a lot about the nature of this country and how we've changed.
Come a long way, I think.
And you would hope that the folks around, the people raising money for and then overseeing this foundation would do their level best to say, we don't want to have another fuck up like the Clinton Foundation. Let's do this by the book. And I could be very wrong in my perspectives on.
I don't think so.
Well, I could be. That the team Obama and the Federal Reserve destroyed the basic soundness of the American dollar by suppressing interest rates, by running these massive government deficits, by burning money in projects that nobody's ever really figured out whether they worked or not, or if they worked, at what cost did they work. We haven't gone through that exercise of truly analyzing the results here. That's before you get to the foreign policy, where we managed to burn up the Middle East, overthrow all these countries of the Arab Spring, and allow the Clinton Foundation to go from weakness to weakness, to get ever bigger, to have all these bribes paid through the Clinton Foundation, to get decisions influenced under the Obama administration, particularly when Hillary was Secretary of State. So we haven't had a fair assessment of all this. And history, if we continue to study history in American English about this country, which maybe we will and maybe we won't.
They're changing it to Ebonics.
Or just whatever. I mean, you eliminate, California now wants to get rid of all D's and F's because it hurts the self-esteem of the people who got a D or an F. I mean, you just give the whole state a D and an F.
That would be fair.
But
I think we're definitely in a state where people are dumb enough that might be an accurate grade.
Right, exactly. So with regard to the Obama Foundation, back after a series of these meetings with Bob in the green room, I said to him, look, I think you're screwing this up, but that's the bad news. But the good news is you haven't really raised that much money yet, and I think there's a way to fix it. So would you let me speak to somebody at the Obama Foundation, and I'll just tell them what I think they've done wrong and how they could fix it. And he did that. He did arrange. But before we get to who that is, what we want to examine today, and I think it's good that it wasn't flagged in the title that we're going to go to this place, because I think if they had too much advance notice of where we were going,
just ding the video?
They would have stopped this video.
Well, I mean, the notion that you could be wrong, I mean, it's sort of like, I could be the center forward for the Knicks, but I don't think so.
Well, I could be. I mean, just saying.
I could be too.
Yeah, but
let me play. Put me in, coach.
No, but the point is, what we don't.
Suck.
No, but what we don't understand here, and I've seen this actually in business. You can have an agreement that purports to be the whole agreement in a deal, and then you can have a side letter. You can have a confidential side letter.
Is that legit?
It depends. You get lawyers to help you think it through. But so there may be such a side agreement that we don't know about that says, once you get to be president,
you can steal whatever you want.
Whatever the fuck you want.
How could that be a legitimate?
Because it could be like the old Mad Magazine spy versus spy stuff.
Oh.
You've got this time it's the Democrats in control, but eventually it'll be the Republicans in control, and you have these détente agreements where you say on the side, it's bad, whatever you may do, the remedy is impeachment, and then you leave, and we won't do worse than that. there may be some kind of agreement like that, but I don't think so, because look at the way.
How could that agreement be legal?
I know. Well, how could any of what we're now going to tell you
Right.
be legal? But so the simplistic way to think about this, I mean, Obama has sold himself to the left as being a community organizer, right? That's his. People fondly talk to him about. I want to do the.
Is this not it?
No.
Sorry, this is the order we
Bill
had.
Ayers, yeah.
Here he is.
Right.
The
So
Bill Ayers.
somehow, after Columbia, he spent a number of years as a, quote, community organizer. Now, communities don't really need to be organized, right? You have.
But if he's helping old ladies vote,
maybe that's good. But if what you're really doing is you're saying, like Hawk Newsom,
right?
Unless you do X, Y, Z, I'm going to burn the city down.
Community.
I mean, there's a spectrum of how useful is. But if your talent is organizing, right? You're holding yourself. I organize communities. You would think that the president of the Harvard Law Review could organize a nonprofit, or could make sure that a nonprofit corporation that, in theory, was organized using his name, might have been organized properly when he was president of the United States. I mean, you would think that that's not a heavy lift, right? You go and you say. If we go to the unease at the Clinton Foundation story in the New York Times.
Oh, we're way out of order here.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to put it in a particular order. I think it's to the...
all right, hang on, I'll find it here real quick. It's just sometimes...
Well, while you're looking for it, at the time this thing, in theory, was organized,
There it is.
There we go. There had been intense focus about the screw-ups at the Clinton Foundation. In particular, this story, which came out August 13th, 2013, provoked a firestorm. In particular, it provoked an angry response that Bill Clinton wrote, it's all wrong, in something called Medium, as opposed to getting it out through...
Oh, yeah, that's just a blog site.
Right, so it's amazing that he would have, I want to respond to this. Well, okay, why don't you put it in, like, the toilet paper?
Yeah, I could write on Medium.
Right, anybody could write on... Even Joe Biden could write something.
How come he couldn't get an op-ed in the New York Times?
Because his arguments are all wrong. I mean...
But don't you think if Bill Clinton calls them up, he's like, oh, yeah.
Well, this is the New York Times taking them to task.
They don't just put a Bill Clinton response.
Well, I don't know. But the first, we know from the 500 podcasts you and I have done together or more, the initial sentence, the New York Times can't even get the fucking first sentence of this story right. Soon after the 10th anniversary of the foundation bearing his name, Bill Clinton met with a small group of aides. 10th anniversary, he's talking here about September or October 2011.
Normally fighting AIDS.
The foundation was incorporated on October 23rd, 1997. So they can't even get this right. But you would have thought that B-Rock, free from Hillary Clinton being his Secretary of State, she'd been turfed out on February 1st, or decided to leave, February 1st, 2013. B-Rock's free of the Clintons, right? At least with the second administration. Now there's this intense focus on the screw-ups at the Clinton Foundation. A person whose job, and I'm sure there are many people like this in government, is to cover the president's ass, to make sure that, and to give him some credit, actually, his campaign in 2008, both through the primaries and then in the general election, really was run flawlessly. There were very, very screw-ups in the initial period when he was running for office. So you would have thought by 2013, with the many scars on his back from all the angry coverage, that now he wants to set up a foundation, that somebody would have said, listen, we're not going to fuck this thing up the way the Clintons have. We're going to learn from their mistakes, belt and suspenders approach. We're going to make sure that we organize the Barack Obama Foundation properly. And remember, there are a lot. Barack is a lawyer. Michelle is a lawyer.
Yeah, they're all lawyers.
They're all freaking lawyers.
I think that's the problem.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, and I see, and we're going to shortly all together see, because I'm going to take everybody on a journey through the wilderness here, where we see that, in fact, sitting here today, the Barack Obama Foundation had its authority to operate in Illinois revoked last Friday, December 10th.
Yeah, how do we get to that?
Well, I want to take everyone through The whole
That's some stunning. Like,
Right.
I don't think people know about that.
Right. So we're going to start at the beginning, and the way we're going to start at the beginning is we're going to look in any one of these. We can look. Let's look into the Massachusetts site, Massachusetts charity thing. I think it's. Yeah. All right. Now let's put in the. Go down the page here and put in the EIN, which is 46495. 0751, I think. You had it written down somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing that you can remember that. And there you got it.
Right. Okay, so then we hit on Barack Obama Foundation.
Hey, Foundation, how you doing?
Hey, man. Now, what you see here is that in Massachusetts, at least, they haven't yet filed their 2020 990, which is a problem. It was due on November 15th.
They're 1 year ahead of the Emmys, though.
But let's go to the bottom, and we see here that, in theory, there are entries for 2013. Now, the problem with having entries for 2013 is
He was still president.
the thing didn't exist in 2013.
Oh.
So why does the Massachusetts think that there should be an entry for 2013? But we have articles and bylaws there, and let's hit, the first one is articles. So you hit view, and up it should come.
I don't think it knows the difference between viewing or downloading. It just gives it to you.
Oh.
Here we go.
All right. So let's look at this. You see this is filed in DC on January 31st, 2014, right? So notice here that there you see January 31st, 2014. So this is Articles of Incorporation of a domestic nonprofit corporation. This is a DC entity, okay? And it says the name of it is Barack H. Obama Foundation.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. You see that it's incorporated under DC Code Title 29, Chapter 4. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second. And it describes its purpose. Let's just look at here. Section A, this corporation, and you notice Bob Bauer, who's the guy who signs this, is by reputation a very smart guy. This is a piece of crap document. This is not, I don't see this corporation. Where is it defined? Do you see it further up? Does it define?
Well, it should say Barack H. Obama Foundation, parentheses, quote, corporation.
Well, it said the name of this lowercase corporation is the Barack H. Obama Foundation, in parentheses, the uppercase corporation,
Right.
and then the rest of it.
refer to it as the corporation.
But they don't go to the trouble of doing this. Look at this purpose. This corporation is organized exclusively for charitable religious. Now, you got the papers of Barack Obama, the presidential records, and we're going to have special we're going to beatify the papers. We're going to have special incense, and we're going to. I mean, what the hell are we talking
Drop holy oil on them.
How is that religious? Educational and scientific. You got to follow the science. For such purposes, it's organized exclusively for these purposes, including, for such purposes, the making of distributions to organizations that qualify as exempt organizations under 501c3, right? So it doesn't specifically state in this section A that this is going to be a 501c3. It also doesn't say, it doesn't define the purpose of erecting a facility to hold presidential records and transferring that facility to the federal government pursuant to the Presidential Libraries Act of 1955 as amended in 1986. You don't see any of that.
But what it's describing would be done by a 501c3.
But
it's too much stuff.
Well, it also has the Clinton Foundation problem. What is Article 5's title?
I don't know.
It says purpose. Is purpose singular?
Right, purposes is what this
And
is.
does this describe at least 4 different purposes?
Yeah, that don't seem to be...
So it would seem to me either what purposes or whatever, but it specifically, in the Articles of Incorporation, the organizational test is very clear. People can Google that and you'll see what I'm talking about. The IRS normally would look at this piece of shit document and say, looking at this document alone and nothing else,
You're fired.
yeah, does this describe a presidential records repository? Yes or no. Does it describe an entity that might qualify as a public charity? In other words, it's a subset of a 501c3. No, this seems to describe, an entity that can do whatever the fuck it wants to do.
Exactly.
And it's a broad list of categories: charitable, religious, educational, and
Get
scientific.
sports in there.
Well,
strip clubs.
I mean, it's a large number of different things. And if we go to the next page, it says you can't do annulment. We'll get to that, whether that's true or not. You can't be you can't be engaged in propaganda. And then you have what's called the notwithstanding clause that says, notwithstanding any other provision of this, you're not going to engage in activities other than those which qualify you as a 501c3. But this thing is trying to qualify not as a 501c3, but as a special, no, a C3, but a special limited type of C3. A C3 could be the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, controlled by a family. This is a special type that must, to qualify in theory with...
be a public...
It's got to be a public charity where the board is broadly representative of the public at large.
And not controlled by the family.
And you can't have a whole bunch of political hacks as the founding members of this thing. Now, you keep going down here. Dissolution, we don't need to go through that. Now, from this document, can you tell when it was created?
Yeah, probably.
But you'll notice while you're thinking about this, Bob Bauer signs it as the only person.
This is October 17th, 2014.
That's when it was created?
Well, date, time is what it says here.
So it was this particular document was created at 9 months after it was signed?
That's maybe the TIF is probably getting scanned in Massachusetts at some point. That might be when that happened.
But we'll see, this document is not signed.
This says January 31st.
Right, and that's when it's filed, January 31st. So it's probably in Massachusetts filed as late as October 2014. But Bob Bauer signs this alone. Now, D.C. is a curious place for many reasons. But one of the reasons is that the charity law is extremely sloppy. The next reason, in my opinion, is that the ability to pierce into the apparatus, the regulatory apparatus, is very difficult because it's political and biased against Republicans and biased in favor of Democrats. Every time I've tried to get historical documents, they say, well, the archive is under construction and you'll have to make an appointment.
I'm drunk. There's nothing I can do.
COVID, whatever. But this is clearly, this document does not describe a presidential library. And on its face, this thing should have been turned down by the IRS because for tax exemption, but it wasn't turned down. So here's Bob Bauer, and he's the only person.
How is that a signature?
Yeah, it looks like LLC, doesn't it? Or LLC.
Yeah.
But so let's go back.
This is signed by LL Cool J.
But let's go back into that index, and now let's look at the bylaws and ask ourselves. Remember, the Clinton Foundation had the problem of October 23rd, 1997. That's the 765.3.
What if we download instead of
Let's
viewing?
try that, yeah.
Still a TIFF, doesn't matter.
Well, we're going to have other versions of it, so we'll be able to see.
Yeah, I don't understand why. It's two buttons that do the same thing. I hate that. Is that the right document?
No, we've already been over this one. We wanted the 765, if you go back in.
765?
765.3 KB.
Oh, this?
Yeah. This is going to be the bylaws.
There we go.
Okay, now notice that this says bylaws of the Barack Obama Foundation.
Yeah, no H.
Well, and a V.
Right.
So, and this doesn't say amended bylaws.
This is just something else.
Meaning, most likely, that on January 31st, 2014, they had not yet adopted bylaws. And that these bylaws could only have been adopted once they changed the name of the entity, which they did on March 19th, 2014. So that means they operated in D.C. and may have operated in Chicago and elsewhere without, in New York possibly, and without actually having bylaws. And you can't do that. You can't. An organization has to be organized. It has to have bylaws. It has to have initial trustees or directors. It has to have an organizational meeting. It has to go through a lot of different things. It can't just simply be an appendage of a very powerful person, Bob Bauer, who had been White House counsel, who resigned the day that a lawyer came back with Barack
From
Obama's
Hawaii.
with a PDF file instead of a physical. He immediately resigns. And when we need to get this thing organized, this presidential foundation, instead of picking White and Case, Sullivan and Cromwell, you name it,
They get him.
they get the same dude.
So
And
what is that about, Charles?
I don't know. I mean, but I think if John Durham was trying to get to the bottom of understanding what might Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and others in the Democratic and Bush people be trying to cover up, why might they have been going so aggressively against Trump? I think sitting down with Bob Bauer, I'm not suggesting you treat him the way Roger Stone was treated or
I don't
Jerry
think he
Gorsuch.
wants to sit near the window.
But sitting down and saying, dude, I mean, you're a smart lawyer. Perkins Coie is not a firm of schlubs.
Is it?
I think, by reputation, there's some smart people there. I mean,
I'd like to
why
see.
couldn't you? You had a burning bed inferno with the last presidential foundation run by Democrats. You had a lot of problems there. You're fiercely competitive with the Clinton family. They've given you a lot of trouble. Bill Clinton told Teddy Kennedy, if you may remember, in 2008, when Kennedy hadn't made up his mind whether to endorse Hillary or Barack, Bill Clinton went to Ted Kennedy and said, you got to understand, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, this guy Barack Obama would have been bringing us coffee. He said that to Ted
But
Kennedy.
he said something else, I think, didn't he?
Well, I don't want to go
Close to that.
But the point is that you would think that Team Obama would be saying, Hillary Clinton could rise from the dead and run again. Chelsea could rise from the dead. Who knows what harm Bill could do to us internationally. By setting our own foundation up properly, let's ensure that we can never be challenged, but more to the point, when the Clintons want to raise their ugly heads, again, we just bitch slap them into hell, which he could have done. Anyway, so the bylaws we see are not done until the name change occurs. So how do we understand?
Are you talking about this name change, or is there some official name change?
I'll show you in a second. So if we now go into New York State, the New York State portal, and punch the same number in, the EIN, that's California.
So
There you go. So 46-495-0751. Search.
It's pretty slow, this.
Okay, here's the Barack Obama Foundation.
B-Rock.
And people could do this for themselves.
No, the.
In this case, yeah.
Huh.
And this is how they roll. You see, you have foundations that sound, all right, so
Not into spelling, Charles.
that's, so racist. But anyway, here, Certificate of Incorporation. Note that we have one July 14th, 2014,
Well, why two?
and one
Ooh.
April 2nd, 2021. But let's
What's
do,
with that?
Well, if we hit this July 14th, you were on it there, yeah. Okay, now this is going to show us an amendment, and this is signed March 18th, 2014, and
Also
signed by
by Bob.
LLC, and filed in New York on the 19th, all right? So the bylaws, the earliest that bylaws might have been adopted,
Wait, what does this say about Perkins Coie?
it's copy on, open it, I don't know. Can you tell when this document was created?
Yep. Oops. Well, we don't really want people to be looking at the...
But so we know here that at least until March 19th, the earliest that bylaws might have been adopted for the Barack Obama Foundation is March 18th, 2014. And we know, therefore, that for 6 weeks, more than 6 weeks, this entity operated without having bylaws adopted. Now, what does this say? 7/22/14. Created after it was filed? Okay, this is created in New York. It's probably
Right.
filed in New York. 7.
Sent by paper, scanned, and then they make a PDF a few days later.
All right. So if we go down this page a little bit, if we can lose the thing there, because this amendment was adopted.
Wait, let's get rid of this and go back to this.
Yeah. Okay, and note section 4. Fourth, no, if you go back up a little. Fourth, the amendment was adopted in the following manner. The amendment was adopted by the incorporator, and member approval was not required. So this is admitting here that they had no trustees, or no directors by March 18th, because still the incorporator is the person who changed the name of the entity. Now, the
That's
reason
Bauer.
Bauer. And so remember, Perkins Coie was centrally involved later with the Clinton campaign, attempting to, in my opinion, rig the 2015 16 Democratic parties, and maybe later rig the general election in 2016 in Hillary's favor, and also take down President Trump, candidate Trump.
This is just from their website.
Yeah. So he leaves May 15th, 2018.
I think they only do this, though, when you leave on good terms. Otherwise, they just delete you, and then
Right.
people say, 404, that lawyer doesn't exist.
Exactly.
I had experience with that.
Yeah. So if we could, Jason, go back to that page,
Sure.
if that's right. So more to talk about. All right. So it says here, the incorporator did this. The trustees or directors were not, I don't think, selected by March 18th, and that's a serious problem. Because what people are trying to establish, and you'll go through the law and try to understand it, the question here, the important question for the IRS in considering whether this thing should get approval if it were following its own rules, is this entity independent from its creators? Is it something that is really, going through the
And
paperwork?
that's important for the
Very
tax
important.
exemption.
But, well, for this type of, because you're trying to you're standing in the shoes of government. You're saying, I'm creating this entity up here that is going to is going to be involved as a steward for property of we the people, that is to say, the presidential records. And so when you go into the Presidential Libraries Act of 1955 as amended in 1986, there are strict rules about who may make these donations. It has to be, in this case, it would have to be a validly constituted foundation to donate these records. And it isn't validly constituted, which is why we're going to see later that the workaround is to say, fuck all that. We're just going to, we don't care about that stuff. We're not doing it the way we said we were going to do it. But here we have proof that it operated without bylaws, at least, let's say, until March 17th. Now, my suspicion is the bylaws were not adopted until the earliest is the date the application for tax exemption was sought. So let's go back into the menu here in New York. In New York, you have the IRS tax exempt application here. Okay, and we go down this page a little bit, slowly, as they say in Swahili, tafadali, please.
Slowly I turn, step by step. What does that have to do with Niagara Falls?
I don't remember.
That was the trigger for Cramden.
Oh, is that right? For Cramden?
Wasn't that Ralph Cramden? Slowly I turn, Niagara Falls. I don't know, I remember that from the Honeymooners.
I love that show. Keep going. Let's. All right, here we go. Let's look at something. This is a thing we've learned from other stuff. Here we see it's called the Barack Obama Foundation. It's based in Washington, D.C., in the same address as Bob Bauer. So it springs to
is
life
that his law office?
into his law office. And the question is,
Are you allowed to do that?
risky, I would say. And this is a power of attorney, and it says they get the right to work on an application for recognition of exemption, okay? Keep going down. It's signed by
Doesn't look like
Robin
Bob
Cohen, the acting executive director, gives a power of attorney to Perkins Coie to get the job done, get this across the line. Now remember, it's not that hard to do that because at this time,
Here's Bob.
B-Rock is president. He's got a number
Whatever
of...
he says goes.
Yeah, and nobody's going to challenge what he's doing. Now here's the application. It's care of Perkins Coie, right? So the question is, how independent is this thing from Perkins Coie, I would argue, if I were...
Yeah, why are they doing that
Yeah,
care of Perkins Coie?
I mean, even the Clinton Foundation at least had it
Didn't do that.
in the house of Skip Rutherford. At least some pretense of independence. So we go down, we're going to see, does the thing have a website? Well, Jason, I'm familiar with something called who is, the icon version. And I forgot to get this up here. Let's do a little thought experiment. When was ObamaPresidentialFoundation.org created, one might ask? Was it before January 31st, 2014, or afterwards? And what does who is show?
Let's see. We can't. Let's see. I hate these scan documents. Obama Presidential Foundation.org. Okay. It's interesting. Why is it 44 hours with Obama?
No, but we want to go into who is.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure I had the correct spelling of it. Certainly Manny Grossman would be interested that it's 44. Here's the icon registration lookup tool.
I did it without that stuff and www.obamapresident and no backslash at the end, and I get something.
There you go.
All right. When was this created, Jason?
2013.
How do you create a
Before
website
Halloween.
before you have an entity?
Easy, you just register it.
Yeah, but the point is, what
How
were you
can
doing
an
in
idiot be a police
2013 using the
officer?
state? Right.
It's easy, you get your license.
Does it say who that's all? That's not my dog. If you keep going down this page,
Cloudflare
contact information, Trilogy Interactive in
in
California.
California.
Who is Trilogy Interactive?
Maybe 3 people.
Who are interactive?
Yeah. Here it is. It's an LLC. This looks like it might be it. Textify.
It sure looks like a political organization to me,
Hater.
right?
Well, I can't tell.
Look at this. Our digital campaigns produce results and propel movements. This is a political organization.
SEIU is their client.
Yeah, Schumer for U.S. Senate. I mean,
Oof.
ask me. This is not. So a political organization
Oh,
gets
isn't
the
this
website.
DCCC is the Democratic
Right,
something.
right.
Voters, not politicians. United Steelworkers, SEIU.
Yeah. So here, this entity, plainly a political operation.
Who are these guys? Partners.
Okay. So they get the name Obama Presidential Center, and who knows what they were doing in 2013 with that name. Let's go back into Icon for a second. And
Let me take a minute to find it here. Yeah.
okay, and let's do another search. Let's do Obama Presidential Center. .com. Okay, that was created in February 20th, 2008.
Oh.
He wasn't even the candidate then.
Wow.
And who did this one? The Obama Foundation is the registrant
Wow.
in Illinois for this thing.
How the hell could they do that?
I
How
don't
could
know.
he have a foundation when nobody even knew who he was?
Right now, it is possible, and here I'm sympathetic with this. That
It's GoDaddy.
well, I'm sympathetic when you're a famous person or somebody whose name is known.
Oh,
you
somebody steals it,
right.
makes it.
So I'm not saying that this is Barack Obama's fault that this happened, but there, the ability existed back in 2008 to do, or 2013 and 14 to do exactly what we're doing now to figure this stuff out. Saving you the time, there are multiple iterations of this thing that were created both before 2013 and after 2014, in theory using this address.
GoDaddy would know who did it.
Right. Ask your daddy.
Who's your daddy? You could ask him.
Who's your daddy?
Yeah, Obama Foundation, who is your daddy?
So we go back into the application
Of which?
to the IRS
From New
in
this.
New York there. Yeah. You had already opened it, but
It's probably this.
yes. Okay, so now we learned that they were active before January 31st, 2014. If we go to section 2, the next page, I think, organization structure. Are you a corporation? If yes, attach a copy of your articles showing certification of filing with the appropriate state agency. Include copies of any amendments to your articles and be sure they also show state filing certification. They say yes. So I don't see these amendments. I don't see that this entity was actually organized by initial directors or trustees. Because had it been, and you will see later, there's some important changes that should have been made to the Articles of Incorporation to refine and reflect what the true purposes were and are of this entity. And those changes have never been made to the Articles of Incorporation. In question 5, it says, have you adopted bylaws? And they say yes. Then they say, if yes, attach a current copy showing date of adoption. No copy of the early bylaws shows a date of when they were adopted, right? So just for these two things right here, if it's a Jason Goodman Presidential Foundation and the IRS people are doing this, like shaking, looking at your paper and saying,
this guy wasn't even president.
Is this organized? No.
They're not looking at any of this stuff at all.
Exactly. All right, so then we go down here and we see further on, we get to the section, the narrative description of what they say they're going to do. Now, just stop for a second here.
Who are all these guys?
The director chairman, Marty Nesbitt, is a very successful private equity dude, money manager. I'm not sure who John Poorman is. I think he might also be in the investment business.
It's a terrible name for a guy in the investment business. You better look into something else. Maybe insurance.
Like you want to be a garbage man and your name is dirty as shit. Not going to work. Anyway, so David
could be
Plouffe,
a dermatologist or an esthetician. He's the poor man.
David Plouffe, though, is this centrally involved political operative in the Obama administration.
Oh.
Okay. Robin Cohen.
Well, they're all at Randolph Street in Chicago.
Well, that's their Chicago-based office, right? And so this thing is sent in June 27th.
But I thought they're supposed to not be all connected.
Exactly. But June 27th, 2014, they're operating by this. They're operating by this from offices in Chicago.
But isn't this his sister?
His half-sister.
So that's not allowed either.
I know. That's why we're going through this. So, but the question is, when did they register to conduct business in Illinois and in these other places? And we'll get to that in a second. We go further down here, we get into the narrative section. This guy, by the way, Justin Rosenthal, of all the firms to pick, what firm would I say, under no circumstances do you hire somebody from this firm to be in charge of strategy and finance?
Oh, McKinsey.
Presto change. Yeah. That's where he's from. Let's go to McKinsey, right?
But they just these guys are getting $650,000. That sounds like a lot.
And the Smoot Twos group, we're going to get to them in a second.
What the hell is that?
That's a fundraising group.
They're giving a lot of money.
Right. And so there are a lot of problems, I think, with these answers in here, but we're going to get to the narrative in a second. We'll show the narrative answer where they describe what they're going to do. Your history, slow down for a second, Jason. Your history, are you a successor to another organization? No. Okay, so what happened in October of 2013? Who was doing the website? How did you organize that?
Forget about that.
What about 2008? All right, so we go further down, we'll get to an attachment that takes us through what in theory they're going to do.
Stack paper? Smoke trees.
Yeah, so hookers and blow. It shows, stop for a second there, Jason. This shows a balance sheet. It doesn't give a date, though, for your most recently completed tax year, which would have been 2013. What? And it's interesting, this is why they use, in this case, this form, which was revised in June of 2006. I think there were IRS revisions to the 1023 after June of 2006, so I'm curious why they would have used this version of the form. But this shows, in June of 2014, you would have been talking about year-end December 2013. So here they're saying they had a net worth of $852,000, even though they didn't exist in the previous year. That's kind of problematic, you know? Then it says they want to be a public charity, right here, right. 509A1, 170B1A6. right? They say that's what they want to do. And if you keep going, they sign it the 27th. This is Robin Cohen, who's an operative for the Pritzkers, a very wealthy family based in Chicago. She's very savvy financially. She should understand that this form is a complete fuck up. But evidently the game was,
Just sign
we're
it.
going to persecute Tea Party people. Now here we get the narrative description of activities, okay? The Barack Obama Foundation is going to plan and develop a presidential center. Did you see any of that in the purposes?
No, but I saw pictures of it in the newspaper.
Right. And then engage in activities reflecting President Obama's values and priorities throughout his career in public service. Now, that's a nice thing to do,
No.
but that's not necessarily anything connected with being a charity. It doesn't say do this on a charitable basis, but it does say that they're going to go through the process of creating a presidential library. You see, I'm just making it quickly. It's going to have an endowment, 60% of the cost of the operation, and it's going to be in the presidential library. That's what it says to the IRS, right? And
Yeah.
B-Rock is the president of the United States at this point. Let's go back into the index for a sec, and we'll see the letter was sent the 27th, or signed the 27th of June 2014. Here's the IRS Determination Letter, Jason.
There's two.
I know. Either one was fine. They're the same.
Oh.
For some reason. Now, what date does it say there?
Well.
It says July 21st, 2014.
Yeah.
So 24 days after the application goes in, this thing gets approved. And notice who it's sent to. The Barack Obama Foundation.
Care of Perkins Coie.
No, it doesn't say Coie.
Cole.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, the IRS can be sloppy, but you would have thought if you're the IRS agent in charge of this case,
No, what I'm thinking is if someone copied, sometimes if you have a name, you just copy it and paste it somewhere else. And depending on if that's lowercase or uppercase, they could be using that trick where a lowercase L is used in place of a capital I, so that when you're searching for who did this,
Right.
you don't find them.
right? Exactly.
That's interesting.
Right. So
Who typed that? The IRS?
again, we are aware through other work that I'm not certain this is a legitimate
Uh-huh.
determination letter, and we're aware of many other examples of fake determination letters. Now, I'm not saying that we have fake birth certificates and fake this and fake that, but I'm not saying I can look at this and say it's fake. It is very different, however, from the letter, and it's a different time, but very different from the lengthy letter that the Clinton Foundation got. And typically, the way this works, and the law may have changed, in the old days, the way it worked is you were provisionally, as a public charity, you were provisionally granted authority to say you're a public charity, but then there was a 5-year test period where they checked to see, are you getting the proper amount of public support? Are you running the thing properly? Maybe the law changed, but this is a much shorter letter than the Clintons got.
It's also just weird that this is not even a stamp. This is some sort of weird reproduction of this guy's.
It's a woman, Tamara.
Oh, I thought it said Thomas.
Yeah.
Well, whoever it is, it's a weird signature to me.
Yeah. And this one clearly does say that it's issued July 21st, retroactive to January 31st, 2014. Now, the IRS normally will not do that. If you haven't been organized, you don't get to operate. Well, if you're not organized, you don't get tax exemption normally, but if you certainly wouldn't get a letter issued to you that says back to January 31st, 2014, when you had no bylaws, and we're going to show in a second when you actually had no authority to operate in the place you claimed your headquarters was in Chicago. We're giving you tax. Yeah, and that's suspicious. What's missing?
But, well, what is that? This looks like something's cut off. So just quickly, if we Google IRS letter 947, there are a number of examples. Now,
This looks odd as well.
well, that looks very IRS-y to me, to tell you the truth.
But it's not signed.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Oh, there it is signed. Yeah, Jeffrey T. Cooper. Or I. Cooper.
But what's the date of this? I don't know.
15.
That's 15?
The one you just looked at, yeah.
Why is that not letting us look at it? Here's a letter. Palo Alto.
7 or 17?
They do seem to be vastly different.
Yeah.
Now this looks kind of official.
That's a more official looking one.
That's like the stuff I get from the IRS seems to look like that.
And what's the date of this
That's
one?
revised 2020.
And there you see, look at the signature there.
Well, it's Stephen Martin.
Right, but I'm just saying it
He
looks...
is a wild and crazy guy.
He's busy, does IRS shit.
This
He's
is
a comedian.
February 2020. Here's 2014, Charles.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, it doesn't
And it
have
says-
that crap above the
What is the name of the...
Karen
Kevin?
or Kevin, I don't know, Cure server. I don't know. Who was the IRS
Let's look, I think
director?
Tamara, if you put it, it's Tamara Ripperda. I think it's Ripperda. Let's Google her and see when she was director of exempt organizations. Because that's, yeah.
She plans to retire.
How many years was she at the IRS, Jason?
Well, 33? Holy crap. I mean, what do you think of that, Charles? So this article is from 2020.
Yeah.
So who are all these other people signing these letters?
I don't know.
Is that the
I
way it works? That
Well, it depends their title.
this is Texas. Coats for Kids Ride.
Inc.
I
That's
think
January 6, 2014. So there, I think what happened is, I think Lois Lerner was the director of exempt organizations, and she was bounced, and there were acting people in for her. But let's go through that at another moment, because I want to take people through
Sure.
other defects. It's tough to believe that there are more than we've already talked about. Okay, so we have,
actually it's not.
if we go into here, we go down the page a little bit, we see they filed a 990 for 2014, one for 15, one for 16, one for 17, and one for 18. Now, if we pull up the one for 17, silly me, I was the one who was at the end of 17 was saying to the folks, this doesn't even it has the 990. I was saying to them, look, you screwed up, and look, this is interesting. This New York form is signed March 14th, 19 for something that was due November 15th, 2018. See that, Jason? So this is late in New York. We're torturing
And
the
nothing
Trumps.
happened to them.
We're torturing the Trumps in New York. This Letitia James and before her Schneiderman, torturing the Trumps, the Trump Foundation, people who are...
Nothing on this.
And here's the Barack Obama Foundation, this Poorman dude, signing a form that was due November 15th, 2018, March 18th, 2019. Okay, that's seriously late.
What should happen as a result of that?
Well, these are New York defects. We'd have to go more deeply to understand how many other New York defects there are. But I just want to show people, this is now Trump is the president. They're saying they have various fundraisers. And we're going to get to the 990 in a second. A lot of New York form here. But here's the signature electronic filing request. And okay, let's slowly here. Look at this. In 2016, we go down the page a little bit, the total revenue, line 12, for the B. Rock Foundation was $13 million and change.
It's a lot.
Trump gets to be president, it's $232 million.
I mean, that seems
Big jump up.
strange to me.
So, well, it makes sense. I mean, remember the moment.
That's just 20 times the money.
Well, I think when you're president, it's ordinarily very difficult to actually raise money because you're not supposed to be doing that when you're president. You're supposed to be.
You can only get 13 million.
Well, and it makes sense in the moment, that Hillary was bitch slapped in the election, and a lot of people were furious, and Barack Obama's going to save the day. Let's get behind him. Let's give him some money. He's been good to us, and so the money poured in.
It seems like way too much to me.
Well, it's a lot of money, obviously, but the point is, I was on the phone with the last day of 2017, the Friday I think it was, around then, I was on the phone with a person at the foundation saying, you really just don't take any more money. Give the 13 back from the prior year and the other prior years. Just start
Like, Charles,
over.
I have 230 million on the other line. Gotta go. Click.
I know. And more or less that's what happened. So we keep going down the page to the next page. We see, we'll get to the expense breakdown. We see how much they bothered to spend on accounting.
$1, and it was
No, it
to a
was-
tiger.
More than $1. It wasn't to Ernie Skirmy or any of those people.
Is that it?
No. Okay, that's the revenues. The next page. Okay, slowly. Line, they spend
Payroll.
on
tax.
travel, in line 17, they spend $2 million on travel.
Whoa. Well,
But
salaries
on-
$5 million.
On accounting, how much do they say? 11C, how much do they spend on accounting for something that took
20 grand
20 grand. There's no way.
for
That
200 million.
Yeah, if you hear your
It's
revenues,
like H&R Block.
that's right. They go down to some local. And I don't mean to disparage blind people, but let's find somebody who's deaf, dumb, and blind, and
You could do the taxes in Braille.
let's go to a hospital, find somebody who's been in a coma for 35 years, and take their hand and get them to sign. I mean, there's no way a rigorous job was done here on the accounting. This is really a tax preparation, most likely, fee. The audit likely was.
I think even for something that size, it's a low number for tax prep.
Right. So this entity, this form is a joke, and even back then in 2017 and I guess 19 when they filed in New York, they still hadn't broken ground on the foundation.
Still haven't broken ground
Right.
now.
And they've raised through 2020 more than $700 million for this project, but they've decided, that they're not going to. It's a foundation, and it was given tax exemption as a 170, whatever.
B6.
B1A6.
A1, whatever.
B1A6, yeah. Whatever the thing is, it's a public charity. They said, nah, never mind. We're not going to do that anymore.
What do they do with all these millions while they're
Keep it.
waiting to do anything?
Keep it.
But
Who knows? Just keep it.
just hire more people, pay them.
Right. And so there's a series of challenges with this. If you go to that, there's that article we had initially, I think it's with the Star. Yeah. This is an article that came out last week. And
Shovel-ready jobs, Charles.
and we go down through the article, we'll see that this is an exclusive thing where they go and they're so happy. The list of all their donors, Jeff Bezos, 100 million, Michael Sachs, who is a board member and on the board of GCM Grosvenor, and his wife, Carrie, are going to give between 10 and
carrying
25.
the Sachs.
Well, the question, he's a board member, you make it a donation, is he getting anything out of this? Is the question. Is there an endowment that he might be running? Is there some other business link that we don't know? Penny Pritzker was in the Obama administration, and their family are legendary around the world, but in particular in Chicago, very powerful. I don't know if her brother is the governor of the state now, but a Pritzker is. What did she get out of this? What do the Pritzkers get out of this? What does Steve Ballmer of Microsoft get out? What does George Lucas get out of this? What is this utility that's Bill Ayers' father's company, Exelon Corp? It's publicly traded. What do they get out of it?
Bill Ayers' father's company. Wow.
I think so. Alphawood found, Bill Ayers' father worked there. What about Alphawood? That's Fred Eichner, who is a big donor to the Clinton Foundation and to the Democratic Party. And then we have the Salesforce.com people. This is John Durr is a very famous venture capitalist, early investments in Amazon and Google. The vice chair of the Obama Foundation is this Glenn Hutchins guy, who is Silver Lake Investments is a gigantic private equity operation. We have Sean Parker, who is a
Napster. Facebook.
and Facebook, and this Greek shipping magnate, and this Silicon Valley Community Foundation. People have majorly questions about what that's actually doing, and Boeing, and the MacArthur Foundation,
Bulls great, Michael Jordan.
George Soros, Oprah Winfrey.
Oh boy.
Steven Spielberg. This Aliko Dangote is one of the richest people in Africa. Whoever the cobblers are. McDonald's, the Crown family are very big. The Obamas, Ken Griffin is one of the richest people in the world.
Really?
And other foundations. Yeah, this is Citadel. And here, look at this. Jeffrey Zients, currently the Biden White House coronavirus response coordinator.
Oh, wow.
I have high confidence in him.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the Chicago campaign co-chairs, and it says Obama Foundation President Valerie Jarrett. Now that's news to me that she's the president. But we look at all this and we say, great reporting. Is there another way to find out the truth? And there is.
But wait, there's more.
But wait, if we go to and I know I didn't ask you to do this in advance, if we go to the nonprofit ProPublica Explorer advanced version, and we put in find any word, search term here. Just put in quotes, Barack Obama Foundation, in quotes. And hit go. Okay, this will give you a list.
Why are they all?
These are all, most of them are
giving money to it.
Contributors, including, some cases it's the 99.
This is Judd Apatow.
I know.
Went to my high school.
I know.
He has a family foundation that's giving money to Obama. And Leslie Mann is his wife.
There you go.
Why are there 3 entries there? Oh, each year.
Each year.
Wow.
So here, if you want to figure out, and we're going to go down the Aphorism Foundation. I'd never heard of that thing. Let's hit that.
What is aphorism?
We'll find out in a second. You go to In 2017, it's down here. Yeah, okay. This is now giving you the return, and we see the revenue expenses down as small revenue expenses, but keep going down. Balance sheet, let's see, beginning of the year, if you keep going down this may be the wrong one. Strike that, let's do a different one. I thought that was a bigger one. Let's find one that's big. Keep going down this page, please. We can say Ben and Jerry's Foundation. It may not be that big, but that's the ice cream thing in Vermont.
Wow.
And you can do this for every one of these entries, and this has revenues of $3 million.
Does anybody rich not have a foundation? Just say, look, I don't want to get into all this. I'm just going to donate money to somebody.
I think this is a way of, if you're very rich and you're inclined to be charitable and do this properly, there are limits how much money you can deduct on your personal income.
But if you make a foundation, you can load it up with cash.
And the foundation can be investing. If you think that it's going to, like Jane Fonda has a foundation, for example, that doesn't give out any money. And you ask yourself, what the hell is that all about?
Yeah, what does it do?
But this has $5 million in assets.
A lot of ice cream.
Right, almost $5 million. Now we go down the page, we're going to get to the grant section. And it's very important, if you run a private foundation like this and you're going to give money away, you've got to explain the entity to which you gave it. And what is it? Is it a private foundation that you gave money to? Is it a public charity? And if you, as the Gates Foundation has done with the Clinton Foundation and other foundations, if you fail to describe, here we go, these are the different ones. If you fail to describe, you see foundation status of recipient PC means public charity. All of these are supposed to be public charities. And 1 second, Addison County Community Action is poverty relief in Addison County.
Oh.
And here you go, for Justice and
They only
Alliance.
have $2,000 for that.
Alliance for Global Justice, it says, for Justice and Alliance of Families, the FANG Collective.
But that's Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, isn't it?
I don't know what it is.
FANG?
Yeah. Oh, that you mean, yeah. Well, it should get short here. Barack Obama Foundation, and what is the
It
classic?
says it's a public charity. They only gave him $100. What's that about?
Yeah, but interestingly, that is not the address of the foundation. P.O. box.
Oh yeah.
We get in
But
the old
what's
P.O.
with
box.
$100?
I don't know.
It's an employee matching gift program. So one person at Ben & Jerry's was like, "I'll give Barack Obama $100."
I'll give him a Benjamin. So if we go back though and let's look at the Sean Parker Foundation.
How much did that guy who gave the press conference say Obama charged him for the ride in the limo? Maybe that's what that was.
But there's a large number here. Oh, well, let's see. CarMax Foundation, that was mentioned. Form 990. That's a
The used car place?
Yeah.
Oops, I just
You got it. It's just
selected
loading
in a
up.
way that I didn't want to.
How big is this sucker? 7 million it's got of.
Who owns CarMax?
Well, I don't know. We'll find out in a second, actually, because we'll have the board members.
Isn't it like that guy who has the reality show?
Here we go. Matt Amon.
I don't know him.
Okay. But let's go down the list of grants and see how much they gave to the Barack Obama Foundation.
Foster grant.
There you go.
Whoops. There's a whole grants section.
Yeah.
Is this it?
There. Yeah, that's it. B-Rock Foundation.
Boy, a lot of grants from the car company.
Yeah, they have lots of local people they got to give money to.
Yeah, they're small. There are a lot of small.
Let's see, B-Rock Foundation. Sean Parker is not small when we get to that. Should be. It could be the Barack Obama Foundation.
Doesn't look like they have Obama in here at all.
All right, well, we'll go to Sean Parker where we...
Obama. There it is. Barack Obama.
Associate matching dollars, 26.
$26. They like it even less than Ben & Jerry's.
And this is a different address, right?
Oh, wow.
So let's go into Sean...
Also in Chicago.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the plug.
So if we go to back into the list of the ProPublica thing and we go down the page, I think to the next page of this, page 2. Right here, yeah. Okay, you get Sean Parker Foundation, I think. It's either Sean Parker or... Yeah, Sean Parker Foundation. You hit the 2019 link. Now this is some serious coin in this foundation. It's got big revenue.
7 million.
But its assets are, I think we go to the bottom. I thought they're, 200 and...
Ooh, 11 million?
Yeah, 210 million. Okay, and we go to the grants page, and we'll see that Sean Parker's foundation, and this is a guy who's made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And has got to be careful. The Barack Obama Foundation.
That's an address we've seen.
Yeah,
the previous
but
one. 6.25 million.
But it says that it's a public charity, when I don't think it is.
Right.
And it says the purpose is to inspire, empower, and connect people to change their world.
What the hell does that mean? 6.25 million would inspire and empower me to change my world, Charles.
Right, but it's clearly not the purposes of a public charity. I mean, you can do all that as in a beauty salon or a plastic surgeon. I mean, or a gym for that matter. Right? I mean, this is its face. The Sean Parker Corporation. He's on the board of the Barack Obama Foundation. Clearly he's not in this to be careful about charities. And I think if we go down the page a little bit, I think there's an additional...
But look at this. He's got a Parker Institute for Cancer Immunotherapy that's going to develop visual and verbal brand identity?
And he only gives that thing $270,000, but gives...
Let's 16 million for UCLA to establish a research center. That sounds like charity.
Yeah. So if we go then back now to Illinois, we might ask, or let's first go to North Carolina, because that's an interesting one. That's Massachusetts. That's what we want. Now we put in here the Barack Obama Foundation or Barack Obama Foundation, either one here.
In quotes?
You don't have to, but Okay, it says it's active, hit that, and we go down the page, document filings. Okay, now what we see here is, before we pick a particular one, you'll see they describe it. You go down the page, renewal, extension denied,
Oops.
August 30th. December 4th,
Wanna see
denied, and I won't want to go through them all. May 18th, 2021, extension denied.
Wow. Oh,
Right.
a lot.
And if we were to do a very careful analysis of every state, we would see that they have run afoul of many, many requirements. And North Carolina happens to be a state where people are very careful, at least in the Secretary of State Department. And if we go to the first one, you'll see they tried to register in time, the one at the top of the page. They began the process of trying to register in September of 2014. And if you hit, I think that, yeah, you have email correspondence, attachments, a license, of course, an insufficiency letter. In other words, you didn't do, you said you were supposed to do. Financial information 2013. A list of board members. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can get here where they claim they registered, the determination letter. Now let's look at that determination letter. Because in some states it's characterized as occurring on the 31st of July, not the 21st. This too says July 21, 2014.
Call.
Doesn't look the same as the other one, does it?
Yeah, it kind of does.
Privacy redaction.
What's that about?
Unclear why you would need, I mean, it's a matter of the EIN.
Public record.
Yeah.
You know, there's somebody else I know who is privacy redacting the EIN of their public charity in filings that they've refiled and tried to sue me since 2017,
Right.
who claim to be dead. But I'm not saying.
Right. This is also care of Perkins Colt. Maybe, when was this document created? Is this?
Let's check.
Go to the videotape.
Right, because we were sort of speculating that the other thing would have been. So it's saying that we already have this, so I guess it's the same one.
All right. This says it's received in Carolina on the 29th.
Let's just check when it was.
But this looks like a much cleaner version.
Well, when did that other one tell us it was created? Do you remember?
July 22nd. This says December 16th.
No.
December 15th, 2021. That's
That'll
today.
be today from downloading it, but it doesn't say. That's strange. Well, I guess it's.
So, suffice it to say, I haven't been through every one of these filings yet in North Carolina, but there's some serious problems.
And we would need to take some time to do that kind of like real deep
Right,
property kind of forensic investigation of the documents.
right. But let's now go back to the Illinois link that I sent you.
Which one?
You would, that's off the emails. That's the one where.
This?
No, before you took like 4 links and you
Oh,
put
right. Okay, nobody can see this, but do you remember which one it was?
This one, first one. They can't see that, really?
Well, not unless I hit the show everybody the thing button.
So let's go down the page.
Now they can see it.
All right, you have to hit submit. All right, and we put in Barack Obama Foundation. This is in Illinois, mind you.
Where they claim to be.
All right, hit the Barack Obama Foundation. Okay, what is the status?
Revoked.
On what day, Jason?
Friday. Last Friday.
But more importantly, they only attempted to qualify to do business
In 2014.
in Illinois on the 9th of July. So how did they fill in an application stating that they were, to the 27th of June, 2014, if they hadn't qualified in until the 9th of July. So this is an example. When we go back to that IRS Tea Party targeting controversy, right? To date, the reporting has been, wasn't the Barack Obama administration and Lois Lerner evil for what they did? The Tea Party rose out of a reaction to Obama's first year, and Obamacare, and the aggression, Fast and Furious, these various things. It explodes. Clearly, elements within the Obama administration targeted conservatives, and Cleta Mitchell is one of the people who is all over the media saying, isn't this unfair? I'm on the board of all these conservative groups. I'm an expert on charity, and this is unfair, unfair, unfair. But
wasn't she doing something with the conservative union?
We're going to get to that. So the story that I think our tech overlords, who are the main contributors to this foundation, they want us to be locked in conflict, Democrats versus Republicans, conservatives versus liberals, so they can create more Facebooks and more Silicon Valley and more hedge funding and more grifting off foreign aid. That's what they want. They don't want you to look behind it and say, actually, Cleta Mitchell didn't go far enough, because she couldn't go far enough, because she was intimately aware of the massive problems with the American Conservative Union, its foundation, the Heritage Foundation.
So come over here and do this, and we won't say anything about that.
Exactly. So there's just this little play here. We'll let both of you. But the more important thing is, with all this going on, screaming headlines back and forth about, got to be careful in charity land, The Barack Obama Foundation is people just say, we don't give a shit about this. Nobody's going to catch us. We'll just, instead of listening to me, which you don't have to, but we're just going to go ahead because we can. We're going to just race down. We're going to let these rich donors take a big tax, bigger than they should have tax deduction, for a charity that's not even going to hold presidential records by its own admission. That's the lawsuit thing that we want to get up there. Actually, we want to finish with that. The four-liner that you did before. There's I
had this.
No, the thing that you didn't show the other people.
Oh.
That had the 4 lines.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's Preservation Chicago, that one. So we're getting close to the end here, and what I really hope, if people like this presentation, I hope that they're going to send it. I hope this comes up, actually.
Why would it not?
I don't know.
But it doesn't seem to be. But Charles, have we done this? Sorry to interrupt you. I hope people will send it to who?
Well, there's a group. Here we go. All right, so I try to go to Chicago as infrequently as possible. I mean, I try to travel, actually, as infrequently as possible. But this particular park in Chicago...
Oh, that's from yesterday.
I know. So this particular park in Chicago was designed by the same people who designed Central Park. And what this preservation... So it's a fundamentally important park in a big city in this country. And so what the B-Rock entity did is, using Rahm Emanuel, who was the mayor at the time of Chicago, they do an inside sweetheart deal to take 20 acres out of a park and give it to this entity, which doesn't formally exist.
And isn't the park owned by the people of Chicago or something?
Yeah, and look, everyone's tastes are different. To me, this looks like one gigantic Easter Island head.
In the middle of a park.
In the middle of a park.
Most of the people that I spoke to in that neighborhood were kind of pissed off about it.
Well, that's what this whole lawsuit is about. And I think you have familiarity, and I have familiarity with the concept that if you're going to sue somebody, you got to make sure that the person
is actually a legal entity.
Right. And so this group here, and people can see, it was designed Jackson Park by Frederick Olmsted and Calvert Vaux, designers of New York Central Park. And here you see, initially the Obama Foundation intended to build a traditional presidential library, but then the Obamas announced a change in plans. Instead of housing the official presidential records, the newly renamed Obama Presidential will be a privately owned, managed, and operated campus featuring a museum, public meeting spaces, a recording studio, and an athletic center. How does that have anything to do with the original thing? And how do you jump all over Donald Trump and his family for his foundation and let this
studio? What's that
This
for?
is absurd. I mean, I have no problem with anybody, frankly, in this country. And it's a great thing that you can start with nothing and become a multi-billionaire in this country if you do it lawfully. But I got no problem with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama and their family milking their public service to their heart's content. Get this gigantic deal from Netflix, get your book deal, get this, get all that kind of stuff. The second you try to do that within a charity, I've got serious problems if it's a public charity. You should not be allowed to do that. Where are the presidential records of this president, of Donald Trump, of...
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. Have we done this with the Trump Foundation that they sanctioned to compare like how big or small that was?
That was tiny, the Trump Foundation.
That's what I mean. We should do that.
We will. But the point is, I don't know who this Preservation Chicago group is, but I would really like to speak with them. I'd like to have them on the show.
What is it? Preservation Chicago?
It's up at the top. I think they have links at the top of this thing. The very...
Oh, right. Huh.
About us, yeah. Leadership. Who's the leadership?
They need a better server. Or maybe people are reading this article from yesterday and slamming this website.
But normally, you don't... Remember, we opened the show talking about George Washington and kings and hereditary monarchs. I mean, you don't get, I don't think, as president, the right to go into the White House, scoop out all the valuable data and information that is gleaned from being a president of the United States. We need to get to this Ward Miller.
And then he has the staff. There are...
Here are the board of directors. Brad Suster, never heard of any of these. Debbie Dodge.
I don't really know any of these people, but they're probably just Chicago, business people or whatever. Charles, it's interesting. I saw here in About, they had a... volunteer opportunities. Maybe you could volunteer to go over there and open a can for them.
But seriously, I mean, this idea that,
extra strength.
This idea that, we start with Ronald Reagan, and as you know, I'm favorably inclined towards Ronald Reagan, and though I'm sharply critical of the fact that he, once leaving the presidency, he accepted outsized speaking fees to go to Japan in 1989.
And somebody gave him a house.
And his insiders gave him a house in, I think, Bel Air or something like that, $4 million house. The guy had some
money. That was a lot in the 80s.
And
what's a $4 million house from the 80s worth now? $30 million?
I don't know, but the point is he also had made money.
He was an actor.
Oh, more than that, he was a spokesperson for General Electric. He had a lot of pay.
What, really? General Electric?
Yes.
Well, that's not nothing, I don't think. I don't trust General Electric. I didn't know anything about them other than light bulbs. Well, I mean, before I met you, I didn't know anything about it other than light bulbs and found it weird that they made jet engines. But I think I mentioned to you that book, The Hidden Nazi, talks about how General Electric was involved in this plan to duplicate Nazi V-2 rockets, and they were totally in on Operation Paperclip, getting those Nazi scientists.
Yeah. So I didn't like Reagan's exit. I certainly didn't like George H.W. Bush.
How about his haircut? How'd you like that?
I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, man. Greasy as hell. As a little kid, Ronald Reagan was kind of like very old man.
But anyway, he's George H.W. I didn't like the fact that he converted an outsized speaking fee into shares of Global Crossing, working with Terry McAuliffe. I didn't like that at all.
Right.
And so I don't like George W. Bush's payoffs, and I don't like all these book deals.
Would you eat it in a train? Would you eat it on a plane?
And
I do not like these deals, Sam. I am.
Yeah, and I really didn't like the crazy level of book deals for Bill and Hillary. Yeah. And remembering that, unlike Reagan, when Bill and Hillary left the White House, they were bankrupt technically. They had
told you about it nervously in an interview. Right. Hillary did.
Yeah, and they've never changed that story, and they've dedicated since January 20th, 2001. They've dedicated themselves to grifting, and through their foundation, which we've been over and over and over. And I would have thought, again, it just defies my understanding why B. Rock and his team, who were trying to distinguish themselves from other Democrats, why they wouldn't have learned from the Hillary and Bill Clinton messes and done this right.
There's an unspoken rule in Washington, D.C., Charles. #STFU.
Yeah. So
That's just a great picture.
yeah. And so now we have the spectacle of, we get lectures from people on the left, Barack Obama, about climate change. And here's a couple, empty nesters, their daughters are gone, and they have a gigantic estate in Martha's Vineyard, waterfront.
Wasn't the older daughter somehow friends with Hunter Biden?
I don't know about that, but one of the daughters, I think the older one, spent a year working for Harvey Weinstein.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, well, now they're all hooked up at Netflix with the Obamas.
Probably, but you're talking about two people, right? And everyone else should be crammed into an apartment, a capsule apartment here in a major metropolitan city. But the former president
Also, you're not allowed to leave.
Has
with
a mansion
Yeah.
in Martha's Vineyard, a mansion in Washington D.C., a mansion in Chicago. It's rumored that he also has, whereas for them they have a mansion in Hawaii. These are two people flying private everywhere. And if you're seriously going to try to suggest that the world is going to change irretrievably for the worst within now, I think 9 or 10 years, because our carbon footprints are too big, wouldn't you be saying to this family, look, why don't you set an example and just one mansion is enough? Pick one. Why do you need 4? And McCain 7, and Romney 8 or whatever he has. I mean, if it's such a serious problem.
Yeah.
It seemed to me that the leadership would, first of all, understand whether the models are accurate or not, which I don't think they are. And if they truly are such a threat to civilization in this country, reduce your carbon footprint. And then we'll listen to your schemes, your $93 trillion. Is this his own?
I don't know. I just found it. I was looking as you were talking. It says inside Barack Obama's super luxurious and exclusive private jet. This is from the 2018, when former U.S. President Barack Obama toured Kenya. He jetted into the country.
No, I have no problem as president doing this.
Okay, but the son of whatever, as he's fondly referred to in Kenya, returned to Nairobi, this time in a private jet christened VistaJet.
Yeah, again, who paid for this? If we go into the
Oh, but wait, this sounds like VistaJet is a time-sharing jet company.
Right. And
I will say, if you're a former president, there probably could be a financial calculation based on his security that might make a timeshare in a private jet less expensive than flying.
right. But as is the case of the Clinton Foundation, if you're going to set up a presidential records repository,
Suppository?
you want to, at a minimum, pick a location for that, right? In the Clinton Foundation Articles of Incorporation, it doesn't state that it's going to do this in Little Rock in the Articles of Incorporation. In the tax exemption application, it says that, but they didn't amend the articles. Similarly, for the Obama Foundation, it doesn't state where this repository is going to be. That should be, if it's going to be in Chicago, why are you paying for private jets to fly you around the world? And who's paying for that? Why should the foundation pay for this? Why shouldn't you pay this out of your personal
Right,
pocket?
$65 million book deal.
Right, and is it, I don't begrudge former presidents their security details. I think, sadly, they need them. But who should be footing the bill for all this? And another point I would say is, by setting the presidential salaries so low, I mean, $400,000 is a lot of money, but in the business world, now investment banking, even
It
today...
just makes them too attractive a target to be bribed.
Right.
But what's the end? I mean, if you pay the guy $20 million, somebody will bribe him $50.
Well, I think there's a couple of workarounds you'd have to do. Like this, what's the most valuable we see through the Clinton, the W. Bush, the Obama presidencies. What we see very clearly is you do the presidency, and if your payoff is in book deals.
Do the presidency.
You do the presidency.
That's what Joe Biden is trying
Yeah.
to. Biden man is trying to do the presidency, but he's actually just screwing the entire country. Charles, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm doing it. Another screwy book deal that just got its comeuppance. Big dummy, Andrew Cuomo. He's ordered to forfeit the $5.1 million. Now, I don't know. I don't think this is probably true of you, but I tell you what. If I got a deal where somebody gave me $5.1 million, you call me next week, there'd be like $80 left.
No, that one.
No, I mean, I'd buy a house for maybe $2 million I don't know I'd be able to give it back months later. It would be a problem.
Well, I mean, he's clearly being persecuted here, and I think appropriately so. I mean, we go back to 2020 in the campaign year, the mainstream media would juxtapose every press conference of Trump's, pandemic
Against this idiot.
Against this idiot.
Emmy Award-winning idiot.
Yeah.
Emmy Award-losing idiot is what he is now.
And we have testimony, in quotes, from Miranda Devine that $1 million advance for a book is a lot.
Right.
$5 million for this moron was ridiculous. In particular, I think we'll probably find that Cuomo didn't write the book.
Well, they're saying that the problem was that he used state resources. That's why
That's what I'm saying. He didn't write the book. The
Committee on Public Ethics yanked the thing. And then, also we already know that he lost the Emmy. Emmy's going to have to get used to losing, or people are going to get used to losing Emmys, or there's a lot of loss surrounding the Emmys. Stripped of the Emmy Award he received last year for his popular briefings. So it doesn't matter if there's facts involved, it's just whether or not it's popular, Charles. That's right. How this system works.
Well, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. I mean, one thing we probably will need to do here, we haven't done it justice yet, is to look into the charity run by his sister.
Right, Help USA.
And before he was an attorney general and governor, I think
it's a charity dedicated to making sure people eat the whole sausage and buy Roush Raptors. Now, wait a minute. Oh, his book was also Police Dudes are getting more books pulled than the library of something.
Did we already talk about the Ralph Gravano thing?
Is that his producer who's raping 9-year-olds?
No, this is the Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Oh, Sammy the Bull, right? Said that he would never.
You have it up there. It's the Fox.
Yeah. Let's see. The
Fox signal is like
this one.
There, yeah.
Yeah, and he's not.
This is pretty amazing, actually. We'd actually see this headline published a day ago, that an actual mob boss.
Yeah.
is saying, even I wouldn't do.
To be fair, I think he was an underboss.
Okay. even we in the mafia would not do what this Cuomo guy did to seniors. I mean,
he killed people in Arizona over ecstasy, but it would not stoop to this Cuomo level. I got to tell you something.
Look at this. He's embarrassed to have someone do what Cuomo did as an Italian. He's embarrassed as an Italian.
He should be.
Well, I think as a human, he should be embarrassed.
Well, right. But you know what? Whenever Bernie Madoff or any of these dopes do something, I mean, George Soros, I feel embarrassed as a Jewish person that he's
God, go back up here. I hadn't read the whole story, just for a second. A little bit further up, right here. Sammy the Bull Gravano tore into Cuomo alongside former Colombo Capo regime Michael Francese. So here, it's not just Gravano, it's a number of people in the formerly in the mafia saying, we don't do this.
They have a particular code of honor. I think when it comes to, drugs and prostitution and stuff like that, they sort of figure, well, these are adults making choices for themselves. Old ladies and little kids, the mafia doesn't like to mess with.
I just read there's another thing that's hilarious.
In the Fox thing?
Yeah. And then we're almost done.
Yeah.
Yeah. One, because I'm Italian and I'm embarrassed to have someone do what he did as an Italian, the Bull continued. He killed 15,000 people by putting people with the coronavirus in nursing homes with old people.
I don't give an F who tells me to do that, whether it's the former president, the vice president, you, him. I would never do it.
And I'm a badass.
I mean, again, it's like, if The Sopranos and The Godfather and everything are to be believed, what is it? Is omerta the code or whatever? There's some kind of code that they go by where you have to be killed if you do certain things, and you can't, like if you do this now you have to be killed, and if you kill some old lady or a little kid.
15,000.
Yeah, no, it's not what you're supposed to do.
But it's how quickly the mighty have fallen. I mean, a year ago.
Oh, wait. There's more.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently this Committee on Public Ethics, I don't think they like him, Charles. I like them.
You like Cuomo or you like the committee?
I like the committee.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say about that.
All right. And I like the art department's work. Once again,
Thank you, yeah.
outstanding.
Well, I'll be excited to see this movie. It's actually the first movie I've wanted to see in a good long time. But surprise, surprise, not allowed into movie theaters. And I mean, you know, this is what they're trying to do to revive Hollywood, is that they're taking big, you know, what they call these tent-pole blockbuster kind of movies and put them only in the theater. But also, you know, Disney owns Marvel, so they have been really making a lot of money from that Disney streaming plus. And I think they're going to want to they got into a big fight with Scarlett Johansson over putting her movie on that instead of in the theater. We'll see what happens.
Did we talk? I don't think we've talked about, or did we talk about Chris Wallace?
Oh, leaving Fox to become a streaming CNN.
Yeah, I mean, does that make any sense? I mean, the guy's 74 years old, and he announces on this past Sunday, he said, "This is my last show. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere." He doesn't say where he's going. I've got
straight to hell.
A new adventure. And then it turns out to be the CNN Plus. You would have thought that a guy, I mean, he has some family money, I think, from his father.
Mike Wallace,
He's made a lot of, Mike Wallace made a lot of money over time, and he's made money. Chris Wallace, unless he's, you know, spends out of control. So you'd think he doesn't need a job at age 74.
Right.
Particularly at CNN Plus. I mean,
CNN
Plus,
minus.
The CNN Plus is still a gigantic double minus. I mean,
I was going to say, it's like, you know, it's like herpes plus.
You know, to the 16 people who are watching CNN still, you know, we want you to sign up for the streaming service. People don't even like to watch it. When I'm in an airport and there's CNN on, I go to a different place. Yeah. I mean, I can't stand to listen to that thing.
I look at something like this and I'm thinking, you know, who got the 6 figures for deciding how this
6
plus would... Some design company is...
More than 6.
Maybe, yeah.
Probably like... Well, before you get there, it's probably...
The meetings...
No, the color.
Yeah, well...
We've got to appeal to the red
This
states.
shadow, Charles, I object to this shadow within the...
No,
let's have another 12 meetings about this. No,
we've got a problem. We're seen as a blue, left-leaning Democratic
It's all red.
We need to appeal to the... I got it. You know, we'll make the thing red. That'll make Fox people come to the streaming service.
Well, you know what? That actually, there may be some psychological research behind that. But we will see. We didn't really talk about Biden that much, but, you know, he's almost just like an offshoot of Obama. So Biden man.
He's got to be, there are various stories about, you know, Kamala's staffers running away, his staffers running away.
Jill says it's ridiculous to think he's out of his mind. He's always been like this. He's just stupid.
On a good day.
Yeah.
But his poll numbers are, you know, very bad. And more than that, I think he's been tested. I mean, in Afghanistan, a disaster. Trump said about the phone call with the video chat with Putin, it was like watching the Pittsburgh Steelers in their prime play your high school football team. I mean, he doesn't project well. He's reading these statements and off teleprompter, end of message.
End of message, right.
You know, stumbling around. He's going
next page.
He's going these visits, and he's supposed to go that way, and he's over here. You know.
Now I'm going to get in trouble if I say anything. Where am I supposed to go? What am I even doing here?
That's right. Kamala Harris at the charging station. You remember she goes to the electric vehicle charging station and she...
And how do I tell it's full?
Yeah. Really? You know.
How are these people so out of touch? I mean, I think I always go to my mom because she's not technically sophisticated, but I think she even knows that if you have an electric car, there's a battery thing like there is in the phone. It's like...
I know.
Anybody knows that. How stupid do you have to be?
Right. It's pathetic.
Well, Charles, it's been another interesting show. I want to remind people that they can support Crowdsource the Truth by going to subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. I'm really going to need support of the viewers going forward in 2022. I'm kind of launching a new effort, and it's not really new. It's just a more development of what we've already been doing. I mean, everybody knows I do the citizens grand juries with Larry, which is a form of legal activism, helping people understand how we can use the law to protect our rights. And I'm going to be getting into more areas like that. People might have seen my video yesterday where I announced this new lawsuit, Goodman v. Sharp et al., where I am suing the CEO of the Emmys, the chairman of the board of the CEO of the National Academy of Television, the chairman of the board, and a variety of other people. People can still go see that video and download the complaint and read it for themselves. I spent a lot of time working on it, and something has already happened today that I don't want to discuss yet, but I think it's a positive sign.
Good.
Thank you, Charles, for a great presentation, and thanks everybody for tuning in. I haven't spoken with Lee yet today, but we should be on tonight with High Dive. I've been communicating with him throughout the week, and Lee is feeling great. I'll see everybody later tonight. Have a great afternoon.